Y'all are low-key sleeping on this character. People like to pretend Yumi Hustle needs an introduction, but it really doesn't. We all know the turn-based fighting game, and if you don't, go buy it right now and play it on Steam. I'm just gonna cut to the chase. This video is about its modding scene, and a specific modded character I have loved from the very start of this game. Yumi's modding scene is very popular amongst its player base. From quality of life mods, new game modes, single player content, and a massive roster of characters to choose from, it's no wonder why this part of the game is so large. And for how good modded characters are for the base game, they kind of work as a double-edged sword. There are plenty of players out there who only play modded characters and haven't touched the base roster, which is kind of sad because all of the base roster characters are all really cool, excluding Mutant. Plus, some people like to join modded lobbies with no modded characters downloaded and bully people in these lobbies who are forced now to pick a vanilla character. That being said, there's no harm in having a mod character as your main, as long as you have a vanilla character as a secondary. And today, I want to talk about my main, my one true love, British Police Officer. British Police was uploaded to the workshop May 6, 2023 by Violetite, who some of you may know from their other mods, such as Soft, Umbrella, and Bun Bun. The Steam page does label the character as old, which is why I have a local backup of the character just in case it suddenly disappears or something like that. And they haven't had an update since October 19th of 2023. So it's safe to say that this is probably the final version of the character that we will ever see. At a first glance, he seems very bland, and that's because he is. Only 5 normal attacks, not including his grab, 4 special moves, and only 1 super. He does have a specific defense move in Weave, which is cool and useful, but in terms of offensive capability, he's very predictable. Let's compare this to a base roster character, Ninja, the first one ever made for the game. He has 8 normal attacks, not including his grab, 8 special moves, and 3 supers. Let's compare this to the most complicated character in Yumi's base roster, Mutant. He has 7 standard attacks, 7 specials, and 3 supers. However, he also has a wide variety of juke directions that he can use on most of his attacks. How I assume most people play Yumi is by checking the moves of your opponent that they can do and comparing them with the moves that you would like to do for your turn, and making a judgment on how to best start or continue a combo. I'm sure top players are able to instinctively know what their opponent is going to do and what the best counter to that is, but for the casual audience, this is how they play. For characters like Ninja, it might cut it a little close in thinking time since you only have 30 seconds to lock in a move, but I would say you can comfortably check most of his moves in 30 seconds. And for Mutant, it can be a real challenge to check everything, because you have to include juke options to know if your action is truly safe. Now, let's go back to British Police. Your opponent has more than enough time to check all of your movement options, all of your defensive options, all of your attacks, and block predictions with how few moves you have to work with. This makes this character pretty predictable and has led to me being completely blown up by some of my friends. On the surface, this character looks fine, but not very viable. And for the most part, that's correct. He doesn't keep up with the main cast, and most modded characters will run laps around him. But while I'm not very good at Yumi Hustle, and I am using a bad character, no one else in the world has spent 40 hours labbing this character. First, I want to mention that you are predictable. You can be offensive at times, but this character requires a pretty defensive playstyle. Block a lot, because we're going for a parry, because after one parry, then we can start to cook a little bit. The Brit doesn't have a lot going for him, but he does have 2 things. 1, All of his attacks give stupid amounts of frame data. Mutant and Police both have thrusting attacks that they can hit off the start of the match. If Slash was to hit from Mutant, the opponent is down 13 frames. If Thruster is to hit from Police, he's up 31 frames. Thruster is his best opener if you can hit it, which is why your opponent is forced to play around it, which makes them just as predictable as you are. Second, this guy can fastfall. Fastfallowing is the setup to my original first no DI combo with him that I called a Thruster Juggle. Thruster will pop the opponent into the air, you jump after them, hit them back downwards, you then fast fall back down, then set up for the next thruster. This can be through many different ways, but if I had to guess, you're going to want to use either the Slash or the Cloaker. I used to think thruster combos were his best combo moves, but now that I know more about how his moveset is, a Thruster Juggle doesn't hold a combo as well as his other options. This video here is the best I could do trying to purely do Thruster Juggles for as long as possible with no DI, and I could only get to around 46 before dropping. Maybe it was just poor routing on my part, but I don't know. However, after the drop, I used the next juggling mechanic that I've dubbed Grenade Juggling. After doing a Thruster Juggle for a few moves, either your opponent will start to DI in a direction that's hard to reach or keep up with, or the game will start to repel you from your opponent too far for you to reach. This used to be a hard cap for me since I didn't know how to continue off of it. Until one day, I noticed that while all of my standard moves were launching the opponent too far for me to catch, the grenade didn't have almost any knockback. That same game, I got my first 0 to death with no DI combo with the Brit. I was over the moon. Grenade juggling is genuinely the best combo setup you can do with this character. Thruster combos do less damage, they get weaker the longer they go on, and DI down invalidates the entire combo setup to begin with. While grenade juggling does way more damage, works better with the movement style of the Brit, and it still has more combo potential than Thruster ever could. Due to its long windup, it'll always be a combo extender, not a starter, much like its brother in the special menu that I'll talk about next, but it will always have more potential for combos than Thruster ever will. Now, we get to talk about the Cloaker. The original reason I fell in love with this character because the random Payday reference as a summon to one of the coolest, if not most annoying, police units from that game is really freaking cool. I really like the Cloaker. The Cloaker isn't great as a combo starter, ender, or really an extender, except in one case where you'll get crazy value from it. If you call the Cloaker right before the opponent is about to be slammed into the ground, while a grounded opponent usually ends a combo with most characters not having an easy way to hit them while they're grounded, the Cloaker will kick them up into the air, usually at an arc that can be stabilized using a grenade. The Cloaker is a requirement to keep a combo going. I haven't been able to find any good use cases for the shock quite yet, but the boot will get value every time you use it on a vulnerable, grounded opponent. That's his two best specials covered, and they both work really well together. But what about his other two specials? Well, the gun, which, yes, he does have a gun despite being British. There are police officers in the UK who carry firearms, however, they are specially trained officers who are only deployed in high-stakes situations, and considering the fact that he works with a Cloaker, I think it's safe to say that he is a specially trained officer and not doing anything illegal. Anyways, for how the gun works in game, it's actually kind of similar to the way the grenade works and how it doesn't deal a whole lot of knockback. It still does more than the grenade, but it does more damage to compensate. What's actually important about the gun is that the gunfire doesn't follow the gun or the officer, and instead stays wherever it starts firing at. This means in situations where you are being pushed away from your opponent, you can use it as a disjointed hitbox to keep them in place and in stun while you recuperate or jump back towards them. It does only have 2 shots before it needs to be reloaded again, so do keep that in mind because the reload will take a good amount of frames to occur. Other than that niche case, it really does just work as a combo extender, much like the grenade, but if you can safely sneak out that extra damage in there, no harm, no foul. Finally, we have his lessons. These are grab finisher kind of moves. There are 3 lessons, and you can get out of them at any time. This is only really good as a finisher since it does 3,150 damage, if you do all of the damage options possible, and you can't really mess up timings or accidentally hit them too far back. It can be hard to hit, but if you can, it is a free 3k damage for a 10 frame attack. It's also not easy to follow up on after you knock them away, unless the opponent has terrible DI, and you let them out before the final lesson. And all that's left to talk about now is the only super in his kit, Unexpected Nut Rush. It costs 2 bars, and is just a rapidly hitting move that does around 1,600 damage. However, this does combo into itself, so if you have the meter for it, and you already landed one, there's no reason to not meter dump right then and there. And that's really the full guide on my favorite modded character of all time, British Police Officer. No one downloads this guide, and if they do, they certainly don't play it. But I did, and now you can too. I've listed a lot of pros he has, but we can't forget all of his cons. He's not on par with the base cast, but he really does feel close. Right now, I am the #1 British police officer main in the world. But I'm hoping that after this video, that changes. I want to be proven a fool, and for some cool new tech to be discovered that dates this video terribly. I want an update for this character, or a remaster with new moves, and mainly new supers. I want more love to be brought to this character because I really think he deserves it. In a game full of OC characters with wildly complex mechanics and flashy, beautiful sprite work, it's kind of nice to have a down-to-earth police officer take them on headfirst.